last night.
Paul is here too.
No movement in the top four, but Utah and Oklahoma each move up a spot to numbers 5 and 6. Here's where we stand. LSU and Georgia face each other in the SEC championship game this week. Third straight appearance for the Bulldogs. FPI gives LSU a 56% chance to win. Utah is ahead of Oklahoma at number 5. But the All-State playoff predictor gives OU a 35% chance to get in, while Utah has just a 14% chance. Both might end up as conference champions. The Utes and the Sooners move up because Alabama falls all the way to number 12, which strikes me as insane. The first time the Tide have ever been outside the top 10 of the college football playoff ranking. I mean, hilariously, our football power index has Alabama the third best team in the country, and they're 12. But that's not really what's important here today, because Alabama wasn't getting in no matter what happened. There were two things that matter. The first is, if Utah beats Oregon, LSU beats Georgia, and Oklahoma beats Baylor, who gets the fourth spot?
Who looks the best? I think that's going to be a big part of this. You remember, all these people are going to get together in the same room and watch these games. So who puts on, whose final case, who delivers that speech at the end that just changes your mind or shows you that they can be hyper competitive with the best team in the country, Ohio State?
Does history show us that the name programs, the ones that are likely to draw bigger TV ratings, et cetera, more interest in general, do get the nod in circumstances like this?
Yes, and I mentioned in the first hour, for those of you who were sleeping, that nobody in this country wants to see Utah. I'm inclined to apologize, but since I heard such a sincere apology from Neek earlier, I'm going to let him do it next week.
So he's not sorry. We believe Oklahoma, if they win out, will get in, and FPI agrees. The reason we have our seat here is because let's have a legitimate conversation about this, because you went to LSU. Anyone who watches the show knows you're a passionate fan. They are right now number 2 in the standings. The drop-off from being 1 to 2 is enormous, because whoever's 2 has to play Clemson, and whoever's 1 has to play a team we all believe is a significant step down from that. Right. If LSU beats Georgia Saturday and is the SEC champion and unbeaten, do you believe they should be number 1?
I do believe that they should be number 1. I believe they should be number 1 now. Obviously, David makes a compelling argument when looking at the teams that they beat and where they're ranked. But even looking at this and seeing that Alabama is number 12, no one believes that Alabama should be number 12 on this list. They should be ranked higher. And I do feel like it's almost a setup so we could say, with looking at Ohio State, we just feel like they are the better team. Because if you've beaten Georgia, if you've beaten Alabama on the road, Auburn, Florida, that resume to me reads better than having Penn State, than having Michigan, and also having Cincinnati as one of your quality wins, and obviously Wisconsin. And so to me, I believe LSU's resume says that they're better. But as Paul said early on this year, this committee could just do what they want to do and evaluate these teams in a way.
I get what you're saying, and I get where you're coming from, but you also have to take into account the level of dominance in which Ohio State has played. They haven't messed around with anybody. They didn't give up 30-plus points to some random team like Vanderbilt. They didn't. A Texas team, by the way, now that we look back on, is a very average Texas team. Let's not mince words. They're below average, probably, and especially. So I think this is a team that has showed their dominance. Last week against Michigan, Michigan has been doing this for the last several weeks. Boom, frying pan to the face. They continue to dominate great opponents and make them look really bad.
Well, I've got my sheet. You all know how much I love my sheet, and it gives me all of these numbers.
Yep.
So according to our strength of record, LSU is 1 and Ohio State is 2. According to game control, what you're talking about, how dominant you were, Ohio State is 1 and LSU is 2. Do you, Paul Finebaum, having studied this thing and watched it as closely as you have over the years, believe there's any chance that they will flop this after this weekend and LSU will wind up number 1?
There is a chance. I think the chance is if LSU dominates Florida and
Georgia.
Ohio State, whatever.
Georgia.
Whatever. Whoever they play.
Let's roll back the tape. Yeah. If LSU dominates Georgia, and of course in the Big Ten game, you see some slippage with Ohio State playing Wisconsin again. I think they can go to it. But based on what I've seen, I don't think there really is a debate. With all your little geekish stats there, Greeny, I think Ohio
you know what?
State.
This is what the committee does with our sheet, Greeny. Your sheet that you value so much, this is what the committee does with it. This is it right here. That's what the committee feels about your sheet. That's what the committee feels about your sheet. You know all these numbers you got, Greeny, they don't have, nor do they care about. They just do whatever the hell they want.
They have all those numbers. Hold up. They have all those numbers, and they take all those numbers into account. But they also have a pair of eyeballs, too. All of them. All of them are watching.
And that's the problem. These are eyeballs of people I don't trust. There's no transparency in doing
Here's the one thing. There's also an administrator, and I think he's the one that goes in there and says, okay, by the way, do you really want to put Utah against Ohio State. Last year, the debate came down between Georgia. Georgia deserved to be in last year, and they got left out because they had just lost the day before, and they put Oklahoma in and Kyler Murray.
This is an argument we've been having over March Madness forever. The eye test conversation makes me insane. If Ohio State played LSU, who would win? You know who doesn't know that? Anyone.
Anybody.
No one on
So let's
planet
just go back
Earth
to
knows
computers.
that.
Let's just let computers
Not a bad idea.
Let's just let the teams, what they accomplished on the field,
we ought to
be
let
what
fans
makes
vote.
the decision. Okay, let me get to the NFL here. Nick, come on over. We start today with the Dallas Cowboys.
Bring your paper.
Yesterday, during his appearance on 105.3 The Fan, Jerry Jones expressed confidence last night. Good to see you, my
That was
friend.
well said about my good friend,
That was
Stuart
awesome.
Scott.
I'll just say it. If you knew Stuart, you'd know it's the least we could do.
Yes,
we come to you live every morning from the Seaport District at Pier 17. We're brought to you by Chase, and a big hour is on the way. We're going to get up with Jerry Jones. Wait until you hear who is now saying he is the problem with the most disappointing team in football. That's on the way. Then Tua talks about the big decision he's facing. I will tell you why the answer to his question is not nearly as obvious as you may think it is. And then one crazy play that might possibly lead to something we have never seen before in NBA history. All that and more on the way in this hour of Get Up, which starts right now. Jalen, Harden, and the Rockets visiting the Spurs. Crazy moment in this game. This isn't it. This is a more normal moment. In fact, it was something we saw all night long. James Harden getting fouled, going to the line. He would go 24 of 24 from the free throw line in this game. That's a new record. But listen to this exchange with a fan.
No one wants to see a free throw shooting contest.
All right, so that was an amusing moment. Now let's get to the one not so amusing. Jalen, fourth quarter, Rockets up 13. Harden will have an uncontested breakaway dunk. This ball goes through the rim. Explain to us what you see.
Well, James Harden playing defense, number one.
Yeah.
Excited about that. Number two, it's a terrific dunk that should have counted. However, since it didn't count, it was one blown call in the game. It actually happens. And continue to play, especially when you have a double-digit lead.
To be clear, let's just watch that again, though. You see that ball go through. It clearly goes through the rim. He wants to argue it. That ball goes through, circles around the outside. That is obviously a basket. Mike D'Antoni trying to challenge anything he can. They tell him that he can't, and so the game does go on. Now, to your point, the Rockets have every opportunity to win it. They led by as many as 22 in the game, but back come the Spurs. Here we go, late in the game. This is Lonnie Walker tying it. He had 19 points in the fourth quarter. This tied the game at 1:15. Ensuing Rockets possession, James Harden missed a lot of shots.
He sure did miss a lot of shots. That's terrific D by the San Antonio Spurs, but you mentioned Lonnie Walker was the difference maker in the fourth quarter.
Harden shot 11 of 38 in this game. This is in overtime now. 2 seconds to go in the overtime. Harden with a chance to win can't get it to go. So we go to double overtime. Rockets have a 1-point lead. Just over 10 seconds to play. Here's Harden's third chance to win the game.
This is terrific help side defense, a contested shot. Good deflection by DeMar DeRozan, getting out in transition, getting to the free throw line.
He did get to the free throw line. He made both. He would score 23. San Antonio a 1-point lead. One last chance for the Rockets. They get it to Harden. He's called for the charge.
That's terrific help side defense by Rudy Gay, getting in there, sacrificing your body. DeMar DeRozan, his buddy from California, sacrificing his body.
James Harden scored 50 points in this game, but it's the two that didn't count that I have a feeling we will be talking about for a long time. Here's what the NBA crew chief, James Capers, said. Quote, "We have since come in here and looked at the play. He dunked it so hard that the net carried it back over the rim a second time. So, in fact, it did clear the net and should have been a successful field goal." Our buddy, our colleague, our teammate, Jay Williams, was up early and tweeting at the show this morning. He tweeted, "I understand refs make mistakes. We're all human. But the missed call of the James Harden dunk last night really takes the prize. If the ball goes through the net, the bucket is good, period. The Rockets should have won in regulation." Our Tim McMahon, who covers this for us, is reporting the Rockets are hopeful. That's the word we have here. Hopeful that the league office will act and either award the win to Houston, or they will go back and play the final 7 minutes and 50 seconds at a later date.
You're getting really emotional about one play in a basketball game.
To be clear, in basketball, I'm assuming anyone who's watching the show knows this, but they go back all the time and check things in the game, right? Was his foot on the line? Was it a 2 or was it a 3? It seems to me that would have been a much easier way to solve this than overturning the result of a game the following day.
They're not going to overturn a result. My brother Jay Williams, the Houston Rockets definitely would not have won just because they got that 2 points. And the bottom line is this, it's a blown call. I was watching the game, it happens. But what about stopping Lonnie Walker from scoring 19 points in the fourth quarter and 28 points off the bench? It's a terrific defensive play by James Harden. It's a blown call by the officials. It's an egregiously blown call, however, but it's one play in a basketball game.
I guess so. Here's the thing, though. We all watch so much basketball that when you see something you've literally never seen before, it just jumps off the screen at you. How does that happen? Tim Legler earlier pointed out the official is standing right there. He can see the ball go through the rim. How does that happen?
I played a lot of basketball in my life, on regular nets, on chain nets, and you're going to think this is a little bit crazy, but I think the nets were too long. That's actually why that took place.
Would you go on with that thought for a minute here? So,
normally,
is there not a regulation length that the
normally
net is?
in the NBA game, sometimes you see somebody make a shot all net and the net get caught on the rim.
Yeah.
That means the net is too long.
I see. So that could be a factor here again. Just watch it closely. You'll see that ball, it sort of circles around, and I can see why someone might think it didn't go. Even Harden, you can see, is running back to stay in the play. So maybe it wasn't 1,000% clear to him either, right?
Correct. It wasn't clear to him either. He made a terrific defensive play. He finished the play. They were up double-digit points. It was a blown call. When you're the Houston Rockets playing on the road, you still got to find a way to win that basketball
Understood.
game.
So, again, to be very clear, I do not believe they should go back and play the final 8 minutes again.
No.
I certainly don't believe
They
should.
won't, by the way.
They won't. I agree they won't, and I don't believe that they should, and I don't believe that they should or will overturn the result. But shouldn't they be able to, at the next time out, go back, look at it, and change it, right?
I agree. I agree with that premise. The premise is when somebody shoots a three-point shot, foot may be on the line, the officials allow the play to continue. Then when the play stops, they go back and reveal that the play was a 2 or a 3. That should have been able to happen in this case. Because of this play, now in the future, that's going to be something that they start doing.
I think so, too. I mean, it just seems like something, it would have been so easy to do. They add points, take away points in the middle of a game like that. I totally agree with you. This one play doesn't fully decide the game. It looks bad because it winds up going to overtime. It doesn't decide the game, but it's something that probably should not happen.
It is something that should not happen, and after this play, it's something that won't happen in the future. The NBA does a great job of reprimanding its officials. They just don't always do it publicly. And you know when the 2-minute report comes out, but that wasn't in the final 2 minutes of the game.
Okay, so that's where we start. Now let's get to something Jalen doesn't want to talk about.